Hi, my name is James, and this is my take on reality. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Christine, Robyn, Kody, and how the couple tried to utilize the power of communication and the power dynamic within that communication to control, shame, and coerce Christine. Now, before we get started, I would ask that if you are getting anything from the channel, that you consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. It helps me out. And if you want to give me that HBO special, HBO Help a Brother Out special, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Hit the bell for notifications. Also, if you're already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and give me that thumbs up to let me know that you're still getting something from the videos and you're still enjoying them. Thank you. Let's get it. When I talk about the power of communication, what I'm actually talking about is the power dynamic that exists whenever you have a communication experience. For instance, when Robyn and Christine were sitting there talking and Robyn had made the allegation that Christine was being dishonest, that was a power move within the communication sphere. That was Robyn asserting that she had a certain level of dominance because she became the arbiter of what's true and what's false. So that was a power move. When Kody and Robyn decided that they were going to try to control what the conversation was going to be about, what points were going to be accepted during the course of the conversation, and who was going to talk when and for how long, then that was definitely a power dynamic that exists within the communication sphere. Now, one of the things that everybody kind of says is that every relationship, that one of the foundations is good, strong communication. Well, there are different types of communication. For instance, communication could be your boss or your mom or dad telling you what they want you to do. They're not looking for you to give them a retort or for you to give them a response or for you to acknowledge what they said. All they want you to do is do the thing that they are telling you to do. They're not looking for your opinion. Like, same. When you have somebody who is more of a equal plane, that's where you have a sharing of ideas. You have an exchange of ideas. In that realm, you being able to listen is actually more important than you speaking and getting your point across. One of the things that I noticed, especially as we talk about the power dynamic between Kody, Robyn, and Christine, is that Kody and Robyn tended to use certain pronouns. Their pronoun empowerment was I, me, mine, and talking about themselves. When it came to Christine and even Janelle, when they had their talking points, what they tended to do was they had a communicative pronoun position where they were saying things like we, us. When they did say I, they would say, I understand what you are saying. They were acknowledging what Christine or what Robyn and Kody were saying. And by doing that, that gave them more of a communication experience where they were actually having healthy communication. You say what your point is, I acknowledge your point, I accept your point, and then when Christine would go back and try to say that this is my point, in acknowledgement of what you just said, here's my position. Here's what I think. That's when Kody started cutting her off and saying, whoa, don't say nothing. Just sit in it. Just marinate in it. Don't talk. Just be real, think about what I said. Because he didn't care what she thought. And the same thing with Robyn. When Robyn had asked, well, do you think at some point we could get together? Which is crazy to me because you just sat here on the porch and called her a liar at least 3 or 4 times. And then you ask, well, do you think we can have a relationship after this where we're going to, since you got rid of Kody, do you think we could have a relationship? No. And I'll talk about that in another video. When Christine went to clarify exactly what she meant, Robyn cut her off. It said, no, I was just letting you know that wasn't a trick question. It didn't matter whether it was a trick question or not. She was about to give you the answer. And the way that she was saying it was, look, I need time, I need space before we get back together. And she was going to give a full body, full-throated answer. Robyn cut her off from that full body, full-throated answer. And that's when Kody got up and did his whole performance where he missed his cue or missed his mark and then had to walk across the thing and do the, why are you sticking knives in my kidneys? Why? But the whole point of Robyn and Kody was to dominate the conversation and maintain the power dynamic within that conversation, which leads to another point. When we talk about them having that conversation and being communicative with each other and being open with each other, there is another huge point which must be addressed first. And that point is, what is the purpose of this communication? What am I trying to get out of it? From Kody and Robyn's perspective, what they were trying to get out of it, they were trying to shame Christine. They were trying to make her feel bad. They were trying to drag her through the mud in order to manipulate her into staying. They were trying to bully her. And basically, as one of the members had pointed out, it's a form of misuse. We'll say it that way because I don't want to get the video knocked off, to try to force her into doing something that she doesn't want to do. They're trying to force her into it. And because she wasn't falling for it, then they turned around and their perspective was, at that point, was, okay, we'll redirect it. We're not going to try to keep you. We're just going to try to make you feel bad and try to break you and try to hurt you. One of the powers that Christine demonstrated during that point is something that is very important. She understands the purpose. What's the purpose of this conversation? The purpose of this conversation is, I'm here to inform you what I'm doing. I'm not here to ask you what I'm doing. I'm here to provide you information. And upon providing that information, she was confident, and and that confidence is what gives her the feeling of power in this situation. She understood that no matter what you say, I'm selling my house and I'm moving next week. So this is not a question, this is an information session. And in addition to that, no matter what you say to me, if anything, I'm making calculations and adjustments as to whether I'll actually want to talk to you next week or week after next, or how we're going to move forward based on what you say upon me informing you of what I'm doing. And because she had the purpose, and her purpose in the conversation and purpose in the outcome of that she was trying to get from the communication experience was crystal clear to her, she was able to look at them when they were throwing the barbs, the arrows, and the jibes at her to try to hurt her feelings or try to say whatever it is they wanted to say, corrupt the truth, mishandle the truth, present their own facts, or whatever the case may be. She was able to ignore that and move past it. And part of the reason why she was able to do that successfully was because she was looking at it from the perspective of, I don't need to have this conversation, which is another huge point. Christine was able to get away from the idea of addressing every point that they laid out. You don't have to address or retort to everything they say. You don't have to respond to everything they say. Some arguments, quite frankly, just aren't worth your time and are not worth having. When Kody started saying, you weren't really caring about the family, you just wanted to make it all about me and renegotiating our relationship because you wanted more from me. And Christine had that look on her face like, dude, I don't even care about you right now. You're not my concern. I wasn't even thinking about you. And he started accusing her of a bunch of other stuff as far as the kids was concerned. She could have went blow for blow with him. She could have started making points. But what's the point? And that's what you have to understand. You have to understand who you're talking to. Understand your audience. Understand the person that you're in a communication experience with. Kody and Robyn were not there to listen to what Christine had to say. So if she sat there and tried to argue with them and argue them down and prove herself right and prove her point, she's not getting anywhere. She's wasting time. 9 times out of 10, that's one of the things that I said I haven't been on Facebook in a long time, and that's part of the reason why, is because most of the people who go into these conversations on Facebook and even translating from social media into real life, they go into these conversations with a plan on what it is they want to say and what it is they're going to get out of the conversation, and they're not open to learning anything new or taking in any new information which may help them or alter their position. So therefore, if they are locked into their position and they're locked into the way they feel and they don't want to hear what you have to say, there's no point in you trying to have that conversation to convince them. The question is always, what are you trying to prove here? What are you trying to prove? It doesn't matter what you say, because at the end of the day, they're going to believe what they want to believe. So it's no point in you doing that. You're just wasting your time. Even further than that, when Christine is looking at this entire situation, she has to take into account, because there's no benefit in her having that, the only thing she can do is give them power. When you engage them in this conversation, like even for instance, when Robyn was making the whole statement that, we could get together later and we can have a conversation later and we can keep it going, and she's trying to make all these points, there are times when people will try to use that as a means and method to try to pull you into the conversation. I call it the pullback. That's when you go out far enough and they try to pull you right back into something that has nothing to do with anything. So they start making a lot of crazy accusations or crazy points that you feel like you got to chase them down a rabbit hole in those points, where it doesn't go either way, because they're going to remember it how they remember it, and they're going to hold a position they're going to hold, and it doesn't matter what you say. And the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to spend your time trying to have that conversation. Another part of the pullback is they're going to keep trying to pull you into that argument. They're going to keep trying to pull you into point after point after point, because the longer they can get you to stand there and the longer they can get you to have that argument, the better chance they have in trying to break down your rationale for your decision. So when you give somebody the power and you lay out, this is why I made the decisions I made, bop, 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 A, B, C, D, E. They have the opportunity then to go and say, well, I have a problem with A, and attack A, B, C, D, E. And they'll attack you point by point by point by point to try to break down. And all they got to do really is start to create shaky ground or question one of those points, and it starts to unravel your argument. And now you're in a position where you're trying to justify your decisions. Especially in Christine's case, she doesn't have to justify her decision. She doesn't have to ask them to leave. She doesn't need their permission for anything. I am informing you. I'm not asking you to leave. So therefore, it doesn't matter why I'm leaving or what I'm trying to do. Or even if the points that they were making, oh, you're not here for the kids. Okay, well, fine. I'm not here for the kids. Guess what? I'm leaving. Oh, you were here trying to renegotiate with me, Kody, saying you're trying to renegotiate with me our relationship, and I'm not for that. Okay, fine. I was trying to renegotiate the relationship. I wasn't happy the way things were going. I didn't want to be in a loveless marriage. I'm leaving. There's nothing that they're going to be able to talk about. Oh, you treated Robyn bad, and because you was mistreating Robyn and her kids, you didn't really have a place in the marriage. Okay, fine. I didn't have a place in the marriage. I accept all that. I'm leaving. There's no point in you having that conversation, because there's no outcome that benefits you, because the outcome is going to be the same if you've already made up your mind and you decided you're going to do what you're going to do. So just go ahead and do what you're going to do. The final thing I would say is that there's a huge difference, because when you watch this situation and the power dynamic that was laid out, there's a big difference between somebody lecturing to you and somebody having a conversation with you and talking with you. If they're lecturing to you, they're not listening to what you're saying. And if you're a part of a conversation where people aren't listening to you and they're not giving you the opportunity to express yourself, you have to question why you're in that conversation. One of the things that I talked to my daughter about a while ago, a couple years ago, she had an issue where she was going to go in and she had a meeting with somebody she was in school with about a disagreement they had had. And one of the things that I told her was to watch out for this key thing. Nice people tend to get run over in these particular types of situations because of the power dynamic. People who are like Kody or Robyn, when every time Christine went to make a point and she went to say something, they interrupted her. And by them interrupting her, she's a nice person. She's a courteous person. So she just steps back and lets them finish their point in hopes that they will give her the same respect back and allow her to say her point without interruption, because she didn't interrupt them. What happens is they'll say something, make a blanket statement. You'll go to retort that statement or to try to argue against that statement, make a point against that statement. They'll look at that, they'll interrupt you to stop your argument, to keep you from making your point, and then they continue on and make another point. So now you have 2 points that you have to try to come up with a retort to or response to, and every time you get ready to say something to disprove their point, they're going to shut you down. They're going to shut you down. So the way that I suggested that to my daughter that she handle that situation is just simply this: never stop talking. So when they say their piece and they finish and you allow them to finish, then you start in with your piece, your response or whatever, and you continue to talk. Like for instance, when Kody had said, oh, just let that marinate or think of specifics, she should have just kept talking. Oh, excuse me, I'm not done yet. I've already thought about it. Anyway, like I said, don't know about, no, I'm not done yet. And you just keep going and you don't stop, because they're not going to give you that opportunity. And 9 times out of 10, what happens is, and this even happens sometimes with people at work or in work relationships, not just personal relationships or even friends. They have certain friends that do this. What happens is they do that so often that they run the clock on you. And that's all it is. It's just about time management. They're trying to hold on to the ball as much as they can. So while they make their point, and when you go to make the point, they take the ball from you. Then they make more points, and they say more and more and more, and then you give them an opportunity to finish speaking because you don't want to be rude, because you were brought up right, and you want to be an active listener and an active participant in the communications experience, and they don't care about that. So that, again, you just have to recognize who you're in a conversation with. I'm James. This has been my take on reality, and I'm out.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die.